During the pandemic, one of the worst things that the Queensland Premier said, she should have been disqualified from being able to be re-elected, but of course handsomely was when she said this awful thing in response to a woman who lost her baby because she wasn't able to get to the closest hospital, which was in Queensland.
You have to understand too, like people living in New South Wales, they have New South Wales hospitals. In Queensland, we have Queensland hospitals for our people.
Well, there is a failure of Queensland hospitals for Queensland people. People are waiting longer and longer for colonoscopies in Queensland. What's the result of that? Well, if you don't get them soon enough, things that could have been nipped in the bud end up becoming major problems. Well, of course, we know there was the rearranging of deck chairs on the Titanic, where the Attorney General who became the Health Minister becomes the Attorney General. The Attorney General, then the new Attorney General became the new Health Minister. Nothing changes at all. Opinion polls say there could well be a change of government in about 18 months' time in Queensland, and I certainly hope that's the case. It should have been the case years ago. But the media is, rather than focusing on stories like that, this was what they fell for on Channel 9 tonight.
With cost of living centre stage for Queenslanders, the Premier's sounding out big new ideas.
A cost of living measure that I think will have a big impact on families, and that is free kindy.
It's a road we could be crossing soon.
Could soon, maybe. Free kindy? Seriously? David Crisafulli is the opposition leader in Queensland and he joins us now. Now, big fella, lots to get to, but something as small time as the media would think about colonoscopies is massive in normal people's lives, because if something's not detected 6 months earlier and it's 6 months later, it can become a problem. Yet today, again, let's just pretend we're going to do something in the budget about kindy. Everyone cares about kids. Change the subject. No, we're not going to change the subject. The Queensland health system is stuffed.
And on every metric, it was on the decline long before we knew about COVID. So the government's been in power for 8 years. For every year, we've seen a deterioration in the ambulance ramping. It was 15% when they came to office. Today, it's 41%. That's the worst in the country. You spoke about those long wait lists. They have ballooned year on year. And as a result, you've got people living with hips that don't work. You've got people who aren't having a colonoscopy, which means in the end, the difference between life or death. People are waiting too long for cataract operations. And then we have women in cities the size of Gladstone who can't have a baby where, when and how they choose. And we've got these impending crises across the board. It's desperation stakes. And when we hear the government constantly saying, oh, this is an issue everywhere, well, I'm sorry, we have the worst ambulance ramping. We have the worst per capita long surgery wait lists. This is situation critical, Paul, and nothing short of admitting we have a genuine problem and working with diligence to fix it will cut it in the eyes of Queenslanders.
Now, as I've explained ad infinitum to people, one of the reasons the Queensland Labor does as well as it does is because essentially they've been able to offer careers for people who used to work in journalism in Brisbane and then they end up working for the Premier's office. And this is no different than anywhere else. But when you've been in government for, all bar 3 of the past 30 years, pretty steady flow of people, which means they're very good at changing the subject. They have successfully been able to do so and been re-elected a couple of times. Do you think Queenslanders have finally got to the point where they're going to stop listening to what the new message is because the reality of the message they are trying to change from is the real thing that will drive a vote and a need for change?
Queenslanders have woken up to it. You're right, the Premier's got 30 media spinners. She's got 270 staff. Wow. The opposition only has 23 staff in total, and that's to deal with every single one of her MPs. So, of course, we're up against it. But we've been diligent, we've been focused, we're unified, we're disciplined, and Queenslanders are seeing it, Paul. And I keep talking about the things that matter to Queenslanders, and that's an economy built on the back of small and family business, less taxation, less regulation, service delivery, so that when you pick up a phone, an ambo won't be stuck at the end of the hospital ramp, that there will be more police, not the cutbacks we've seen, and we're going to give them the laws to do their job. The best quality education for our kids, national parks that get looked after, they don't just let the feral pigs and weeds run rampant. And the third thing is I want to see integrity back in government. They're the three things: economy, integrity and services, and Queensland are seeing they're being let down badly by a government that has won 11 of the last 12 elections and been in power for most of the last 3.5 decades.
Well, let's just say, definition of insanity, keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. Please, Queensland, don't do that in an upcoming election. Give this bloke and his team well and truly a crack. That's unbelievable. 23 people to deal with everything, and she's got 200 to deal with her world. Thank you, David. We'll talk again soon. David Crisafulli is the opposition leader in Queensland.